So hi everyone, my name is Mo. I'm one of the co-founders of Morta. Just a bit about me and the background first. I spent the last few years, or the first few years of my career, working with the largest contractor in the Middle East. And we were getting pitched all kinds of technologies that range from 3D printing to robotics to AI. And while we thought that all of them were extremely exciting, we felt that the basics in the industry were broken. So people were sharing information via Excel, Word, PDF, and so on and so forth. So what we decided to do was get back to the basics and see how we could actually fix that. And we've gone on to build what we describe as a next generation spreadsheet for projects, assets, and construction. The aim really being to reduce risk and streamline processes within the industry. And quite importantly, to make data accessible so that in the future, decisions can be made in a better fashion. So fundamentally, we enable organizations to improve data quality, connect their data, and automate their processes. And just to show you a bit of what we mean by that and how we think about that, here's a conceptual diagram that we've made of a timesheet of the workers who are on site. And we have the sites here, we have the workday, the names of the individuals, and then the hours that they worked. And the first thing that we think is really important when it comes to sharing information is being able to connect to other data sources. So here, what we'd be doing is we'd be connecting to the accounting or the payroll system that's already being used to process payments for the individuals, rather than have to type these names from scratch, for instance. The second thing to note is, for instance, here we have the site codes, and we have 1 and 2, and then someone entered T at some point. And when they did that, what we do is we'd flag that there's an issue there. So we're starting to highlight the data quality issues that organizations may face. And while we're using site code as an example here, this can be a badge number, it can be a material code, it can be a cost code, and so on and so forth. The third thing is we feel that Excel and spreadsheets aren't great for collaboration. And there are 2 different reasons for that. The first is it's very difficult to actually understand what are the contributions that different people have made to that sheet. And to respond to that, what we do is we provide a detailed audit trail of all of this information. The second problem that we see is a lot of organizations have to split up their information into different workbooks and different sheets. So you'll have sheets for every contractor or for every task team or for every site, for instance. And that's why we've come up with this concept of views of data. And what we mean by that here is we filter, for example, on site 1, so that the people in site 1 can only see information related to site 1 rather than seeing everything. What that allows for is for everyone to work on this exact same table, but have different views of it at the same time. Now, ultimately, what this leads to is something that looks very much like a spreadsheet, but it doesn't have all of the risks that you typically have in a spreadsheet. It has connected data and high quality data that can be used to actually automate processes in a very deep manner. Examples of that range from reconciling costs for labor and payment applications, for instance, all the way to managing information deliverables and checking whether they've actually conformed with requirements or not. I think a few other things to note are that we're extremely process-centric. So while we think that tables are used as a record where we maintain records of information, processes are really important in construction projects. And we're really working on providing all of this information in a process-centric manner. The second thing is we're very big when it comes to connecting and integrating with data. So you'll find that a lot of vendors are working on very specific integrations, for instance, or they'll have closed systems where they only integrate with certain software providers. We actually don't think that that's the way to go ultimately and in the future. And what our clients are really liking is the fact that we have an open system where a user can actually connect with the systems that they would like to, and they can pull data out of the system in the manner that they'd like. Beyond that, we offer customized permissioning and intelligent permissioning and customized dashboards based on the needs of the clients. We've been lucky enough to work with over 50 organizations over the last year and a half or so. And some of the clients that we like to mention include Madison Square Garden Entertainment, where we're working on a $1.7 billion project. We've also worked on several projects directly with the Center of Digital Build Britain, and we've been delivering work for the Department for Education in partnership with Mott MacDonald. So now what I'd like to do is to quickly show you a demo of the platform and how it actually works. I think what's really key is there are a lot of organizations that will speak about taking on Excel and the problems that exist in Excel. But the reason that Excel has been so pervasive in the industry is the fact that any person can come in, can create a table in the way that they want to, and can start collecting data in the way that they'd like. So what we've really focused on is providing a solution where I can go on and I can create the table that I want, and I can turn it into the workflow that I want. So what I've done here is I had created a project. It's completely empty. It doesn't have anything. Only thing I did was I added this banner. And what you can see is on the left side, I have a sidebar. So all of this, of course, is cloud-based. And we have the processes module and the tables module. And what I'd like to do today is to go into the tables module first and start logging information related to the document submittals that someone may have. So I'm going to call this document submittal. And if I had a CSV that I wanted to import into the system, I can. In this case, I'm just going to create a table from scratch. And what that's done is it's created this table. You can see that it doesn't have anything on it right now. I can come here and I can edit column, and I'm going to call this description first. And I can define a column type, and there's a wide range of different types. For this one, I'm going to use text. For the next column, I want to have the issue date of my document. So I'm going to call that issue date, and I'm going to choose date as my data type here. The third column that I'd like to add is attachment. So that's the actual document. And then finally, I'll add one last column, which is called approval. And here I'm going to use something called select. And what that allows me to do is create a list of values that someone may choose out of. So I have yes for approved and no for rejected, for instance. If I wanted to reference another table, like let's say delivery notes or invoices or list of vendors and consultants, I can do that by picking options from another table that are available within my workspace. Now, all this has done so far is it's created a normal table. So this is just a document sample. I can define my issue date here, and I'm going to call it 10. If I want to upload a file, I can. And I can click approve if I want to. It still looks and feels very much like a table. Two main differences so far. One are I can attach files, so I don't need to include links to a file that would be in the Dropbox or in a common data environment or anything like that. And then the second thing that I can do is I can control the data that is being fed in here in a way that I wouldn't be able to do in Excel. Now, the next thing that I'd like to do really quickly is to build a form out of this and then turn it into a process. And to build a form, all I have to do is click New Form View. The moment that I've clicked New Form View, it's generated my form. And the person who's submitting it shouldn't be able to see the approval column. So I'm going to hide that from them, and I'm going to save this view. Now that I've done that, I can go into my processes module, and I can create a document management process. Now, here I'm going to add 2 sections. I'm going to call my first section submit. And I'm going to write, please submit here. Now I can write any kind of description that I want here. I can add images, I can use bullet points and style it in the way that I'd like. If I'd like to embed things like 3D models in here using iframes, I can embed Power BI dashboards and so on and so forth. For responses, I'm going to pick that same table that we just created together, and I'm going to pick the form view that we created. And then I'm going to do the same thing here for approval. And this time I'm going to pick the table view. Now that I've done that, I can go into the submit section. I can see my form here. And then in the approval, I'd have the other section. So I'm just going to call it document sample 2. I'm going to pick this issue date, and I'm going to pick this attachment, for instance. Now that I've clicked submit, I can go to the approval section, and you can see that this one that we just added has been added here. And I can approve or I can reject that. Now, I realize that this is a really, really simple example, and we focused here on documents or uploading a document. What we're really saying is there are many cases where people still use Excel to collect information. That may be carbon data, that may be time cards, that may be material-related data and supply chain performance-related data. That may be information requirements, for instance. And really the aim of us being this flexible is to be able to fill the data gap that many organizations currently have. Now, the last thing that I'd like to show you in the platform is, as I mentioned, one of the things that we're really big on is APIs. So I can generate an API key really easily. And the moment that I've done that, it mirrors the access that I would have as a user on the front end. And I can start pulling this data into the systems that I'd like, such as Power BI, for instance, Tableau, a 3D modeling software, and so on and so forth. Now, ultimately, what we're providing is a blank canvas that organizations can get started with. But what we're starting to do now is we're providing templates that organizations can actually use. So after working with asset owners, contractors, and consultancies, we've seen that there are some common processes and Excel sheets that they always use. And we've tried to break those down into different functions like project management, commercial management, facility management, information management, and sustainability management, for instance. So for example, this weekend, we saw that there was, earlier this week, we saw an announcement when it comes to contractors having to create carbon reduction plans. So we created a template for that, and that's available for organizations to use, for instance. I hope this gives you an idea of what we've done, and I'm looking forward to answering any questions. Thanks a lot.